Hey everyone, this is Keith Scott from out in Sydney, Australia. I'm one of the voices of Bullwinkle J. Moose. It's time to watch Relentless and Unstoppable. And so give it up for your main hosts, Douglas Kenny and Andy McPhee.
Hey everybody, this is Doug Kenny and welcome to Relentless and Unstoppable. We have another amazing guest coming on the channel today, so please hit like and subscribe. And after this episode, please stay tuned to the RNU channel for more amazing guests. Let's get this on!
Hey everybody, how you doing? Just a quick little share of why I started Relentless and Unstoppable. It was for one very simple reason, because of Doug Kenny. Nothing to do with me at all, zero. I was just coaching Doug, and he took on the coaching and mentoring, and he made all the changes. He took all the suggestions from his parents as well as my coaching, but it was all about Doug, his breakthrough and his weight loss, his willingness to accept that he is dealing with high functioning autism and other issues, but he's never quit, he's never given up. So we did one interview with him to share his story, and then we decided to start interviewing other people. And Doug has now taken over the whole channel, and he does all the interviews, he runs everything. He's just an amazing young man. So RNU was born from simply what an amazing young man Doug is, and his story needed to be shared.
And how did you first start like doing the public speaking, and how did you get into that at first?
Good question. Really good one. It kind of started like I was kind of studying to be. This was when I was in community college in Connecticut, and I was pursuing a disability specialist program. When I was doing that, I was kind of like not sure how I proceed because I had no idea at the time. It was like a stereotype. I unfortunately believed that a lot of people are better off, studying on the tech side. It wasn't before because at the time I didn't realize how it looked that say someone who's autistic or on the spectrum, like how do they do in other job settings? Like first I thought it was something more narrow until I realized I thought I was kind of the weird one out there. But in reality, it was kind of like nonsense. It was a nonsense stereotype, and it turns out there were a lot of other people in similar shoes where they went to like social work in the human service department. And I realized it was basically full of crap, and I should just go for it. And some of my networking, always wanted to present like my experiences, especially when driving came up. Driving was one of the biggest, kind of like my biggest reason I went to public speaking. And I used to do it through also with driving with autism and one of the firms I used to work for. And then after all my job changes and looking at my kind of like a history and what I was doing, I was like, you know what? I should do a website. And seeing as I keep getting some showing up at panels and whatnot, it's like it's about time I should step it up. And before I had changes, I also did a keynote speaking. I was scheduled to be a keynote speaker but back in April, which happened. It was fantastic. And I was like, you know what, I should take it up next game. So I just kind of embraced that and just wanted to do a lot of public speaking. Again, I could probably I can probably send an email. And for those interested, I also can go over it near the end when I was like, where you could find me. The website's called Andrew Arboe. It's on Webry. It's also have like a cool little icon that one of my friends from Anna Trina did it. Andrew Arboe, autistic self-advocate and speaker. It showcases my professional history, speaking topics. I talk about transition to adulthood because not a lot of people think about how do you transition from special education to adulthood, and the many, many steps that one has to take to kind of create like their own meaningful life. I also talk about learning to drive, aka transportation, because it's one of my popular like topic. And I was like, I've known in New England to talk about this, so no surprise. And I also talk about special education and then employment. And I'm still kind of branching out. Like I'm actually might be revealing 2 topics on social media, probably maybe midsummer or maybe the end of this month. I'll decide on that one. So it's like I wanted to. So it's kind of like I want to kind of do my own thing. I'm kind of like freelancing. And I've been thinking about that because I recently started to write some blogs for a few organizations. The more I thought about it, to be like, maybe what I want to do is some freelancing during this time. Like while I'm kind of finishing up my bachelor's, so like freelancing would be pretty cool, and it kind of gets me out there even more when I'm REM. So, so a lot of it just came from the desire of just sharing experiences, and no one else, not a lot of people were advocating on the learning how to drive in a like an autistic perspective. It's like, you know what? No one else is doing this in my state. I'm gonna do it. Like I literally like sat in a bookstore. They call it Barnes and Nobles in the States, or at least on New England side. And I just had an iced coffee. I've always been a huge coffee guy, and just worked on it on a laptop, one of my older laptops. So yeah.
What does ECHO stand for?
Good question. And the best way to describe it is like it's like a gathering of professionals, like a lot of different ones. Like you have like a few therapists, you have like the special ed teachers. Like they kind of help out other schools and providers on what they can do best to help out, let's say, one of their students. That's the best way to describe it. And also they do a lot of just reach out to, like the areas that don't have a lot of services, the more which areas I hate to stereotype because with a lot of like gray areas, and also people have their different lives, and some prefer some may prefer the city life, others prefer just kind of being in suburban or rural areas. So with Echo, it's supposed to kind of target pretty much everyone, and again just kind of help be able to educate parents. Describe it. I can also send the links on there because it's honestly been they've been really good to me, and it's also there. So I'm hoping to kind of get more involved in that as much as possible. That's been a pretty good change.
Good to hear. Fire away, Brendan.
What when did you first find out about your diagnosis?
Pretty much I was like, oh, officially, I want to say like mid 2000s.
Oh
Like
yeah.
I was probably was
Yeah.
aware, but I've always focused on like video games. Like I wasn't like I was more like a shy slash I just want to do my own thing. And also, Nintendo, with their popular video games. Like I was very huge into video games, and still am. Still am. I may not be playing as much, but I'm always thinking about the latest releases and kind of figuring out what games I want to get in the near future. Not as much now, because there's been a lot of changes recently. So I'm trying to go easy on game correcting, and not to mention it's super expensive here in the States. Like goodness, especially for the most popular games out there, it goes for quite a bit, which is a little yikes. But pretty sure it's like I started to actually be aware of it, like pretty sure like mid 2000s, like with schools, like if there's that decision making on how they approach telling the student, or do parents kind of talk about it as well? There's a lot of those different like methods. I want to say it's a combination. Then my dad talked about it, and I just came over. And when I was kind of figuring out what I want to do career-wise, I started to look up a lot of autism books because I realized that the transition to adulthood has a lot of pitfalls, at least in the States. It might be similar to
Mm.
UK and other parts in the world where there's not a
Yes.
lot
Yeah.
of resources out there post 20, well, it's 22 in my state, and other parts might be
Mm.
probably quite different. It's like the age where they just drop a lot of the special education services.
Got
Yeah.
it.
It's the same for me when I was yeah, transitioning to adulthood. I yeah, didn't know what to do and everything. Yeah, it was a tricky time. Yeah.
Hmm.
I
Yeah.
learned when I was 10 years old. That's when I learned about my autism diagnosis and all that. And it answered a lot of questions I had about who I was. So, when did you have that discovery of who you were, Andrew?
Honestly, there was that age I mentioned, like mid 2000s. I guess I can also count when I turned 21, like 2014. I just started to kind of discovering more, and I was like, oh crud! I actually don't know what I want to do now. And there's like only a few months left. Believe it or not, despite my background, I really wanted to I wanted to cook. Like I wanted to be in the kitchen. And when I was in a kind of like a post high school program, they put me down in a kitchen. It was like a golf kitchen. Could not handle it. Could not handle it. Maybe if I watched more Gordon Ramsay during that time, I might have had a better idea, or at least maybe at least had like a different mindset. But I just think originally I wanted to cook. I was supposed to do a cooking class at my high school. Unfortunately, the year where I could have done it, it never happened. So whip. And I actually did some work as a busboy for several years during that time. So I wanted to, I kind of wanted to do some cooking, but it didn't happen. And I wanted to look into game design, but my technology skills is not even close of going to that level. And I realized, what am I gonna do now?
So, when was it that you were able to move out and live independently?
I'm still currently with my dad at the moment. I'm hoping to head out after I get my bachelor's. I should be getting it by the end of next year. And I just leave it just personal life and also COVID-19.
Ah, okay.
That's the way to put it,
You're
but I
lucky.
still do everything and I still kind of do everything. I pay for several bills, including my car loan. Car loans are not fun, but at least they're more doable than the college ones, and I avoid getting a college loan as much as possible. Not my thing.
Okay. So, what are your hopes for the future as far as your career and being an activist for autism community?
Really good one is just continuing the momentum I have. Like considering that I had to kind of do a lot of job switching, like I want to kind of keep going, like keep going the next steps. Like I've gotten back to doing special education experience and realizing that I kind of took the past experience I've had for granted. And it's like, I don't know if I'm going to be a teacher or not. I'm still figuring that out. Because one of the things, and again, if you look at LinkedIn, I'm like a jack of all trades. It's like I did some peer mentoring before. I did like strictly job coaching in the past, and now I'm doing like teacher assistant work. And I'm also like kind of a consultant, and I'm also do research consulting for a children's hospital in Philadelphia. Virtual, mind you. It's probably will take me a while to actually drive to Philadelphia slash Pennsylvania, like 4 or 5 hours there. So baby steps for me in driving. Like I recently finally did like a big drive to New Hampshire for a video game arcade, one of the largest in the States. I planned out, used no tolls, and it's like went there on a non-school day, and I was like, let's do this, and made it work. But kind of what it's just kind of continuing, just kind of making it up. I want to schedule more keynote speakings, and probably hopefully work in a big autism organization. And knowing me, I could see that happening, either that or I might start my own thing. But mostly I want to, get involved in something on the national side, maybe, or at least something big. Like I'm in Massachusetts. Massachusetts has a lot of different organizations. And not to mention they have like several places I like too, restaurants too, that I'm willing to drive 2 hours for in Connecticut because I'd like to drive and I talk about it a lot in some of my social media posts. So yeah,
Yeah, for sure. So, this is the last thing we have for this particular episode. How can your journey impact the world?
I'm really kind of good one because best way to describe it, and the last podcast I did also kind of went into it, is that I'm kind of between the lines of several different autism communities. Like I have the professional side. Like it's kind of funny, like how I kind of connect to people. I'm like I connect with trying to think of a good way to describe it. It's like half a lot of the autism community, but I also get along really well with professionals. Like if I'm able to schedule like a couple coffee trips with people, I'll do that in a heartbeat. We just talk about autism, maybe some autism politics. And it's like I kind of get along with a lot of different people, which sometimes add to some trouble. I see all the infighting in online communities, and it makes me cringe. And I'll kind of leave it at that because I can also kind of see how they feel, how autistics feel, and I also see how professionals feel, and just kind of realize, and there was a mix of misunderstandings, and also because I'm guilty of black and white thinking too in the past, and then realizing there's a lot more that kind of goes into the autism side of things, and how autism is very different for everyone else. So for, I guess the best way to describe it for me is I'm kind of want to find that middle ground first, or kind of be that middle ground and just be able to kind of connect the people the way I do right now. And because I love to be a collaborative person instead of just pouring a hot coffee on someone.
Yeah.
Like I rather create and do something really cool instead of just fight, talk about language debates. Because I'm actually quite neutral. Like identity first or person first rankers, it's whatever for me. It's like I use whatever. I just use identity first, so people won't shoot me down. So
Hmm.
people go a little too crazy in that one, but I still do understand why. But at the same time, important topics out there. But that's just my personal opinion. So,
Yeah, so where can people find you?
good. All right, and this and bear with me on that. But my website is pretty much Andrew Arboe dot Webry WEEBLY .com. And you could also find me on LinkedIn. I also have a Facebook page also titled Andrew Arboe Autistic Self-Advocate and Speaker. And I'm really active on LinkedIn, but I want to make sure the Facebook one as active as possible. I also post, like updates on what I'm doing, if I'm driving to a different state for like an autism event. I'm going to be going to be part of some resource fairs in the New England area, which is very exciting because I have some past experience being a vendor, but I have no idea how to be a vendor on my public speaking freelance service. So it's going to be a good challenge of like how to be able to present myself and how, like parents and professionals can make full use of my materials. So I'm going to look forward of experimenting that way. Like I actually spent over 100 hours on on getting like a couple boards of some signs. Like I think two major those to kind of print out some papers and take advantage of QR codes because I don't think I can print a lot of papers, but be able to take advantage of technology. And as most phones can, scan QR codes, it's like something that I look forward to trying out and yeah, making it so people can be able to kind of go and see my work for what I do.
Hmm.
And I probably was overly wordy there. I think caffeine's finally kicking in at last. I had my second cup at eight
Yeah, there's
o'clock at
nothing
night.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
there's nothing wrong with what you said. It's well, our
I get
audience.
really
That's
excited
all
too.
good.
So,
Yeah, for sure. So, Brendan, take us out.
Thank you for coming on, Andrew. It was really, your story is really inspiring and it's amazing what you're doing. And thank you to my co-host, Doug. And thank you for watching Relentless and Unstoppable. We'll see you next time.